In a bustling city, where skyscrapers touch the clouds and the streets hum with the energy of modern life, there is a young couple whose bond seems unbreakable. He's a black boy, in his early 20s, whose life is filled with ambition and dreams, and she's a white girl, also in her 20s, whose gentle smile hides both strength and vulnerability. They are deeply in love, and it's easy to see. Their connection is undeniable, as if the world has faded away, leaving only the two of them in their own private space. Every glance, every touch, every laugh they share is filled with a sense of deep affection and shared history. They meet in local coffee shops, their hands brushing as they pass each other a cup, exchanging looks that speak volumes, sometimes playful, other times intense with unspoken promises. There are moments of quiet tenderness when they sit together, and the world around them feels insignificant. When they talk, it's as though they've known each other forever, and every word exchanged feels like a secret whispered only between the two of them. They share inside jokes, late-night talks, and moments of absolute vulnerability. These are their moments, and no one else can ever understand the depth of their connection. In these moments, their love is pure and free from the weight of the world's judgments. Her laughter rings in his ears like the sweetest melody, while his presence makes her feel safe, like she's found something irreplaceable. When they go on walks through the city's park, their hands intertwine, and for a moment, they forget the stares and whispers of others. In each other, they find solace, even if the world around them isn't always kind to their love. However, despite their blissful moments, there's a subtle undertone of tension that lingers between them. She, the girl, seems hesitant when certain topics come up, especially when it comes to her family. She avoids certain questions or swiftly changes the subject when the boy mentions meeting her parents. It's as though there's a secret lurking just beneath the surface, a truth that she isn't ready to reveal. When he asks about her family, her eyes shift nervously, and she tries to steer the conversation in a different direction. Something about her family, something about her past, makes her uneasy. In these quiet moments, as they sit together, his mind races. He wonders why she avoids the topic of her family, why she's so guarded. His curiosity begins to grow, but he doesn't press her, he doesn't want to break the trust they've built. But something inside him can't ignore the feeling that something is missing, something she's hiding from him. He's patient, knowing that in time, the truth will come out. But the more he tries to push the topic aside, the more the nagging feeling grows, like a shadow creeping into their perfect world. Despite his suspicions, he is still deeply in love with her. He believes in their relationship, in the connection they've built. He's willing to give her the benefit of the doubt, but that lingering feeling won't leave him. Something about her past, about her family, doesn't quite add up. It becomes clear that their love, despite its beauty, is fragile. The boy, in his quiet moments, begins to wonder if his love for her can survive whatever secret she's keeping. Their world might seem perfect now, but how long can they stay in this bubble of blissful ignorance? And what happens when that secret, whatever it is, finally comes to light? If you're enjoying this story and want to see what happens next, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional journeys like this one. Stay tuned. It was a normal evening, or so it seemed. The boy was making his way to her apartment, eager to see her after a long day. As he approached the door, he noticed that it was slightly ajar, just enough for him to hear faint voices from inside. Normally, he would knock, waiting for her to greet him, but tonight, something pushed him to step inside unannounced. The voices grew clearer as he stood in the doorway, his heart pounding with uncertainty. He knew something was off, but he couldn't quite place what it was. He heard her voice, but it wasn't the warm, loving tone he was accustomed to. There was tension in her words. As he listened closer, his heart dropped when he realized who the voices belonged to: her family, her parents, and maybe even some relatives. He had never met them, and she'd always kept them at a distance, but he had assumed it was just a matter of timing. What he overheard next shattered him. Her family was speaking in derogatory terms about Black people. There were racial slurs, hurtful comments about interracial relationships, and even references to events where they participated in racist gatherings. The boy stood frozen, his stomach turning with a mix of anger, confusion, and disbelief. Was this the family she had kept hidden from him? Was this what she had been trying to protect him from? The girl's voice trembled as she defended their relationship, but her defense was weak, almost like she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. He heard her say, "I know they don't approve, but they're my family. I don't want to lose them, but I don't want to lose him either." Her words hit him like a slap in the face. She had kept him in the dark. She had kept the truth from him. The boy didn't know what to do with the information he had just discovered. He wanted to confront her, to ask her why she never told him, but his mind raced with 1,000 questions. How could she hide this from him? How could she continue to love him while keeping such a painful secret? Feeling the weight of the situation, he didn't approach her immediately. Instead, he stepped back, retreating to the hallway outside. He needed time to process what he had just learned. He had trusted her, believed in their love, and now it felt like a cruel joke. The relationship, which had once seemed so perfect, was suddenly clouded by betrayal. After a few moments, he decided he needed to confront her. His heart was pounding, and his hands were shaking as he pushed open the door. She looked up in surprise, but before she could speak, he blurted out, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me about your family?" The girl's face immediately changed, her eyes filled with guilt and fear. She tried to explain herself, but her words stumbled, and it was clear that she was deeply ashamed of what her family had said. She apologized, but her apology seemed hollow, like it wasn't enough to undo the hurt that had already taken root in his heart. "I was afraid," she confessed, tears welling up in her eyes. "Afraid of losing you. I didn't know how to tell you, and I thought if I kept it a secret, maybe we could just live in our little bubble. I was wrong. I should have told you. I'm sorry." But her apology didn't make it easier for him to understand. He felt a deep ache in his chest, the sting of betrayal. She had kept this part of her life hidden, and it had torn apart the trust they'd built. He couldn't comprehend how someone he loved so much could have kept such a big secret from him. "Do you even care about me?" he asked, his voice cracking. "Or was I just another secret you had to hide?" Her silence was deafening. She wanted to explain, but the words were too heavy, too painful to come out. The truth was clear, she had been lying to him, and now it was too late to take it back. If you're invested in this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for the next chapter of this emotional journey. The boy's world has been turned upside down, and it's only going to get more intense from here. It was a warm afternoon when the Black boy decided to visit his girlfriend unexpectedly. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue across the city as he made his way to her apartment. He had been feeling a little uneasy lately, sensing a subtle shift in her demeanor whenever the topic of her family came up. There were moments when she seemed to pull away, moments when she became quiet and distant, especially when he would ask about meeting her parents. Something didn't sit right, and he couldn't shake the feeling that there was a secret she was hiding. That day, as he approached her apartment, he was unaware that he was about to uncover a truth that would shake him to his core. He arrived earlier than expected, his mind preoccupied with thoughts of the future. What would it be like to meet her family? Was everything as perfect as they had made it seem, or was there something lurking just beneath the surface? He stepped up to her door and knocked softly. No answer. He knocked again, a little louder this time, but still, there was silence. With a sigh, he tried the handle. To his surprise, the door was slightly ajar. He hesitated for a moment, but then, curiosity got the better of him. He gently pushed the door open, and the sight before him made his heart stop. His girlfriend was on the phone, her voice low and shaky as she spoke to someone. He was about to call out to her when something she said caught his attention, pulling him deeper into the conversation. "I can't just end it. I love him. He's everything to me," she whispered. Her words were laced with a vulnerability he had never heard before. There was a pause, and then the voice on the other end of the line responded with something that made his blood run cold. "You know what we think about it. You know what will happen if you continue with this. He's black. You can't let that ruin everything." The black boy stood frozen, his chest tightening as the pieces began to fall into place. The words were harsh, cutting through the air like a blade. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Her family was against their relationship, not just because of some distant difference in background, but because of the color of his skin. His mind raced, trying to process what he was hearing. His hand clenched into a fist as the weight of her family's racism sank in. Every second felt like an eternity as he listened to her try to justify her love for him, but the words that came back from the other side were damning. "Your family won't accept this," the voice said again, this time with an edge of finality. "You know what we're capable of if you don't end it now." His girlfriend's voice wavered with guilt. I can't just stop loving him because of what you think." There was a moment of silence, and then she added, "I'll talk to them. I promise. But I need time. I need him. I can't lose him." And that was it. The boy couldn't listen any longer. His stomach twisted, and he pushed the door open fully, revealing himself to her. She spun around, eyes wide, realizing she had been caught. His voice was thick with emotion as he spoke, barely containing the anger that surged through him. "Is this how it really is? Is this how your family sees me?" She froze, her face pale, and for a moment, there was nothing but the quiet hum of the city outside. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't want you to know. I never wanted you to know." And that's when it hit him. The betrayal wasn't just in the secret she had kept from him, it was in the fact that she had allowed him to believe they could have a future without telling him the truth about the people she loved. Her voice trembled as she continued, her eyes pleading with him. "I never meant for this to happen. I never meant to hurt you. My family, they've always been like this. They didn't approve of us from the start. They didn't want me to be with you, and they pressured me to end things. But I couldn't. I love you too much to let them tear us apart. I kept it from you because I was scared. Scared of losing you." His mind was a whirlwind of confusion and anger. He had trusted her. He had believed that they were on the same page, that they shared the same values. But now, everything felt like a lie. He couldn't understand how she could hide something so significant, something so cruel. The boy took a step back, trying to calm himself, but the hurt was too much. "How could you hide this from me? You were willing to let me believe that everything was fine while your family was saying things like that? What kind of love is that?" She was crying now, her hands shaking as she reached out to him. "I'm so sorry. Please, I never wanted to hurt you. I thought if I told you, you would leave. I thought if I told you the truth, it would ruin everything. But the damage was already done." The boy turned away, the weight of it all crashing down on him. His heart ached, his mind swirling with 1,000 questions. How could she let this happen? How could she keep something so monumental a secret? As he left her apartment that day, the pain of betrayal wrapped around him like a suffocating fog. He had trusted her, loved her, and now he was left questioning everything about their relationship. What had it all been for? Was it real, or had it all been a lie? If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you loved, you know that feeling all too well. It's not just about the truth being hidden from you, it's about the trust that shatters in an instant, leaving you wondering if it can ever be repaired. But this isn't the end of the story. Stick around to see what happens next. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any part of this emotional journey. You won't want to. The black boy walked through the streets aimlessly, his mind racing. Each step felt heavier than the last as the weight of the discovery continued to crush him. His thoughts swirled around the conversation he'd overheard, her family's hatred, and the lies she had told him. He had always thought that love was supposed to be simple, that it should have been enough for them to overcome anything. But now, everything was tainted by the revelation that she had kept such a crucial truth from him, something he would have never guessed in a million years. His anger was palpable, and the more he replayed the conversation in his mind, the more he wanted revenge. The urge to make her feel the same pain he was feeling grew stronger with each passing moment. He had been humiliated, deceived, and now, the love he thought they shared was tainted by a racist family that never cared about him. He couldn't just let this slide. It wasn't enough to walk away quietly, to give her space to fix things with her family. No, he wanted everyone to know what her family had done. He wanted them to feel the weight of their words, their hate. The idea of making her family pay, of exposing their deep-seated racism, filled his mind. He could send screenshots of their conversations to mutual friends, reveal the things they had said about him, about their relationship. He could confront them in person, put them on the spot, make them own up to their actions in front of everyone. But the more he thought about it, the more the idea of confronting her family directly felt inadequate. Exposing them to the world, showing her family's true colors, wasn't just about revenge. It was about showing her that he wasn't going to let their hatred define him, that he wasn't going to let their racism continue to poison his relationship. He would make sure they understood the consequences of their actions, whether they liked it or not. As he sat in his apartment, the plan began to take shape. He would expose them, force her to face the consequences of her family's views. But part of him knew that revenge would only take him so far. It wouldn't erase the hurt. It wouldn't bring back the trust he once had. Still, the idea of making her family feel the same way he did, betrayed, humiliated, and heartbroken, was tempting. He spent the next few days gathering evidence, collecting everything he could find that could serve as proof of her family's racism. Messages, photos, documents, anything that would paint a clear picture of who they really were. He was meticulous, determined to make his plan foolproof. It had to hurt them as much as he hurt. It had to feel like a punishment, one they wouldn't forget. Meanwhile, his girlfriend tried reaching out to him. She texted, called, and even showed up at his door, but he wouldn't answer. He couldn't face her. How could he look at her after everything she had kept from him? How could he forgive her for hiding the truth, for allowing her family's hate to fester in the background, just out of his sight? She pleaded with him, trying to explain herself, but he wasn't listening. To him, nothing she said could change the reality of what had been revealed. The hurt was too deep. Her apologies seemed hollow in the face of the evidence that her family had never accepted him for who he was. For who they were together. Despite everything, there was still a part of him that wanted to believe in her, wanted to believe that their love could overcome this. But the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. She had chosen her family over him. She had kept this secret for so long, fearing the fallout, and in the process, she had allowed him to suffer without even knowing it. He was ready. He had the tools to expose them, tools that would dismantle the image they had carefully crafted, tools that would reveal them for the racist people they truly were. It was all too easy. His hands trembled as he prepared to set everything in motion. He couldn't wait to see her face when she realized what he had done. But there was a nagging feeling deep in his chest, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, revenge wouldn't make him feel better. Maybe it wouldn't heal the wounds she had caused. But that was a question for later. Right now, he was focused on one thing: payback. As he sat on his couch, staring at the screen in front of him, he felt a sense of finality creeping in. This was it. He had a choice: to move forward with his plan and expose her family's true colors, or to walk away and try to find a way to heal. The anger within him was loud, overwhelming. It was hard to ignore the pull of revenge. But he knew that what he was about to do could change everything. It could destroy their relationship. It could destroy the possibility of forgiveness. His phone buzzed again. Another message from her. "I know you're angry, and I get it. But please, please don't do this. I was wrong. I know I've hurt you. I'm so sorry. I love you. Let me prove it." Her words echoed in his mind, but they didn't reach his heart. The only thing that burned now was the desire for justice, for her to feel the weight of her family's cruelty. She didn't understand the depth of his pain. And so, he chose to keep moving forward, to make them all pay for the betrayal. But deep down, a small part of him questioned if revenge would really give him the closure he needed. Would it ease the ache in his chest? Would it fix the broken trust between them? The only thing he knew for sure was that this was the path he had chosen, and there was no turning back now. If you've ever been in a situation where your heart told you one thing, and your anger told you something else, you know how difficult it can be to decide. Sometimes, it feels like revenge is the only way to get the justice you deserve. But is it? Stick around to see how this story unfolds and to find out whether revenge really brings healing. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. More emotional twists are coming your way. The day had finally arrived. The boy had made his decision, and there was no turning back now. His phone buzzed one last time with a message from her, but he ignored it. This was bigger than their relationship. This was about proving a point, about making sure her family's prejudice didn't go unchecked. He walked to her family's house, his steps purposeful, his mind clear. He had spent the past few days meticulously preparing everything, gathering the screenshots, the messages, the photos. He had everything he needed to expose them for who they were. The weight of it all sat heavy in his chest, but he couldn't afford to second-guess himself now. When he arrived, he stood outside the door for a moment, staring at the polished exterior of the house, wondering if he was truly ready for what was about to happen. He had fantasized about this moment, imagined their shocked faces, their disbelief as they realized he knew the truth. But now that he was here, it didn't feel as satisfying as he thought it would. Still, he was determined to follow through. Her father answered the door first, a look of surprise crossing his face when he saw the boy standing there. "What are you doing here?" the man asked, his voice thick with suspicion. "I need to talk to you," the boy replied, his voice steady but firm. "And your wife too." The father's eyes narrowed, but he stepped aside to let him in. The boy followed him through the hallway, each step echoing in the silence. Her mother came into view, and when she saw him, her face hardened. "What is this about?" she asked, her tone cold, almost as if she already knew what was coming. The boy didn't waste any time. He pulled out his phone and began showing them the evidence, the messages, the conversations, the racist comments her family had made behind his back. "You think you can just talk about me like I'm nothing? Like I'm not good enough for your daughter?" His voice was loud, and the anger was clear in every word. "You think I wouldn't find out?" Her mother's face turned red with anger. "How dare you come into our home and accuse us of..." Of what? Telling your daughter that she could never be with a black man? The boy interrupted, his words cutting deep. That's what you said, isn't it? That I'm not good enough for her? That you never accepted me from the start? The father's face twisted in shock and disbelief as the boy continued to reveal everything, forcing them to confront the truth. They tried to deflect, tried to blame him for overreacting, for misunderstanding, but the boy wouldn't let them off the hook. I'm not the one who's been hiding secrets, he spat, the sting of betrayal clear in his voice. Your daughter has been lying to me. All this time, she's been pretending everything was okay, but you've been poisoning her mind against me. Do you think I'm just some fool you can play with? The confrontation went on for what felt like hours, the tension thick in the air. Each word that came from his mouth seemed to land heavier than the last. The boy had never been more certain of anything in his life, but as the argument continued, something unexpected started to happen. His anger began to shift. As much as he wanted to make them suffer, as much as he wanted to destroy everything they held dear, he realized that the more he tore into them, the more he tore into himself. Her mother's words struck him like a slap to the face. If you think we're the ones holding her back, you're wrong. She's the one who's made this decision. She's the one who couldn't see past her own lies. The boy faltered for a moment, the sting of those words settling deep within him. What had he been doing? Was he really doing this for revenge, or was he just trying to force his way back into a relationship that had already been poisoned beyond repair? Before he could process this, her voice rang out from the doorway, shaky but firm. Stop, she cried, stepping into the room, her eyes red from crying. Please, just stop. The boy turned to face her, his heart pounding in his chest. She was standing there, looking at him with a mixture of fear, guilt, and something else, something he couldn't quite place. You don't get to come in here and tear my family apart like this, she said, her voice breaking. I know I've made mistakes. I know I should have told you the truth sooner. But this isn't the way to handle it. Her words hit him harder than anything her parents had said. She wasn't angry, wasn't trying to defend herself. She was simply broken, trying to make sense of a situation that had spiraled out of control. Then what should I have done? The boy asked, his voice softer now. Should I have just ignored the truth? Let your family destroy me from the inside while you lied to my face? She shook her head, her tears falling freely now. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you. I just didn't know how to fix things. I thought I could handle it on my own. But I can't. I need you, and I need you to understand that my family's hate isn't my own. The boy stared at her, his mind racing. For a moment, everything went silent. The weight of her words lingered in the air, thick and heavy. Could he forgive her? Could he forgive the lies, the secrets, the betrayal? In that moment, it felt like a decision he couldn't make. The anger, the pain, the betrayal, it all still simmered beneath the surface, but the love he had for her, love that had once seemed so pure, fought to break through. I don't know if I can forgive you, he said, his voice barely a whisper. But I'm not doing this for revenge anymore. I'm doing this because I need to know the truth. All of it. And I need to know that you're not going to keep hiding behind your family's hate. Her face softened, the tension between them finally breaking. I'll tell you everything, she said, taking a step closer to him. I swear I will. Just please, don't walk away from me. For the first time in days, he felt a flicker of hope. The room was heavy with silence as the boy and the girl stood there, the weight of their emotions pressing down on both of them. Her parents, still in shock from the confrontation, watched from the sidelines, uncertain of how to react. The boy's phone, still in his hand, buzzed with more messages, but he ignored them. Right now, there was only one thing on his mind: the girl standing in front of him, the woman he had once loved, and the tangled mess of lies and betrayal between them. The girl stepped forward, her voice quieter now, filled with a genuine sorrow. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." The boy took a deep breath, letting her words wash over him. As much as he wanted to believe her, as much as he wanted to hold on to the love they had shared, the reality of everything that had unfolded was far more complicated than he could have ever imagined. The weight of the lies, the secrets, the constant tension between them, it was all too much. "I don't know how we can fix this," he said, his voice breaking for the first time since he had arrived. "I don't know if we can fix this." She nodded slowly, understanding the magnitude of the situation. "I don't know either. But I'm willing to try. I'll do whatever it takes. If we can rebuild what we had, I promise I'll be honest with you from now on. No more lies. No more hiding." Her words, though filled with sincerity, didn't erase the past. The boy still felt the sting of betrayal, the hurt from the secrets she had kept from him for so long. But as he looked into her tear-filled eyes, he saw something else: genuine remorse, a desire to make things right. "I don't know if I can trust you again," he said, his voice quieter now, the anger in his chest slowly ebbing away. "It's going to take time. And maybe we can't go back to what we were. But maybe we can find a way to move forward. Slowly. Together. If you're really willing to do the work." She nodded, her face full of hope despite the heaviness of the moment. "I am. I'll do whatever it takes. I just need you to give me a chance." The boy stood there for a moment, processing everything she had said. The past few days had been a whirlwind, full of anger, confusion, and heartbreak, but in this moment, he realized something. As much as he had wanted revenge, as much as he had wanted to destroy everything that had hurt him, the true power lay in forgiveness, in healing. If they could rebuild this, it wouldn't be because they tore each other apart. It would be because they chose to rebuild, piece by piece, and face the truth together. He finally looked up, meeting her gaze. "I can't promise that everything will be the same, but I'm willing to try too. We'll take it one step at a time." Her face softened, and she reached for his hand. He hesitated for a moment, but then, slowly, he took it. It wasn't the grand, romantic gesture he had once dreamed of, but it was real. And sometimes, that was enough. The silence between them wasn't awkward anymore. It was filled with understanding, with the knowledge that rebuilding what had been broken wouldn't be easy. But it was possible. And for the first time in what felt like forever, there was a glimmer of hope. Her parents, still standing in the background, remained silent. They had witnessed their daughter's pain, the conflict that had torn apart not only her relationship but the family itself. But now, they saw something else: the possibility of redemption, the chance for healing. The boy turned toward them one last time. "I'm not here to destroy your family," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I just want the truth. And I need to know that I won't have to keep fighting to be accepted." Her mother finally spoke, her voice softer now, tinged with regret. "We were wrong. We were wrong to judge you, to hold you to a standard that wasn't fair. We're sorry for the things we said, for the things we did." Her father, though still visibly uncomfortable, nodded in agreement. "We've made our mistakes, and we know we can't undo the hurt we caused. But we'll try. We'll try to be better." The boy didn't respond right away. He wasn't sure what to say. Part of him wanted to lash out, to make them feel the full weight of the pain they had caused. But another part of him knew that it wouldn't help. There was no going back to what had been. There was only moving forward. He turned back to the girl, his gaze softening. Let's figure this out together. One day at a time. And with that, they both turned to leave the room, hand in hand. The weight of the past still hung over them, but for the first time in a long time, they felt like they could face it, together. The next few weeks were difficult. The boy and the girl had made the decision to heal, to move forward together, but the road ahead was anything but smooth. They both knew that forgiveness didn't erase the pain, it only opened the door to the possibility of rebuilding. It was going to take time to rebuild trust, time to confront the past, and time to learn how to love each other in the face of everything that had transpired. Their relationship was no longer the carefree, innocent love they had once shared. There was a newfound seriousness between them, a quiet understanding that nothing could be taken for granted anymore. But there was also a sense of resilience. They had chosen each other, and now they had to prove that choice was strong enough to withstand the cracks that had formed in their bond. One evening, after a long day, they sat together in the living room of the boy's apartment. The girl was curled up on the couch, a cup of tea in her hands, while the boy sat across from her, his gaze thoughtful as he stared out of the window. "I've been thinking," the boy began, his voice hesitant. "About everything. About my family, about your family, about us." She didn't respond right away, letting him speak his mind without interrupting. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It was simply a space for them to figure out how to navigate the complexities of their feelings. "I know I said I would try," he continued, turning his gaze back to her. "But I think I need you to understand something. It's not easy for me. It's not just the betrayal from you, it's everything. The racism, the lies, the way things were hidden from me. I'm still angry about it. I'm still hurt." She nodded, her eyes filled with understanding and regret. "I know. And I don't expect you to forget or to forgive me right away. I don't even know if I deserve your forgiveness. I need you to know that I'm not the same person I was when we first met. I'm changing, and I'm trying to make things right. I'm trying to take responsibility for what happened." The boy watched her closely, his mind racing with conflicting emotions. Part of him wanted to pull away, to protect himself from further hurt. But another part of him, the part that still loved her, wanted to believe her. He wanted to trust that she was telling the truth, that she wasn't just saying what he wanted to hear. "You're right," he said after a long pause. "You're changing. But so am I. I don't know if I can just erase everything. I don't know if we can go back to what we had, and I don't want to pretend like it never happened. But I think I'm willing to try." She looked at him, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "I don't expect things to go back to normal. I don't want things to go back to the way they were. I want to move forward with you, and that means facing everything, even the hard stuff." Over the next few weeks, they took small steps to rebuild their relationship. They talked openly about their fears, their insecurities, and their hopes for the future. It wasn't easy, and there were times when the boy still struggled to trust her completely. But every time he looked at her, he saw someone who was truly trying to make amends. And that made a difference. The girl began to confront her family, cutting ties with the toxic side of her past. She took a stand against her family's racist beliefs, publicly denouncing their behavior and refusing to let their views define her. It was a difficult and painful process, but she knew it was necessary if she wanted to build a future with the boy. At first, her parents were resistant, angry even. They didn't understand why she was turning her back on them, but she stood firm. She knew that their views weren't her views, and she wasn't going to let their hatred poison her relationship. Slowly, her parents began to come around. It wasn't a quick or easy process, but the girl's unwavering commitment to change and her love for the boy eventually began to make a difference. One evening, after a particularly difficult phone call with her mother, the girl sat down with the boy, her face tired but resolute. "I spoke to my mom today," she said, her voice quiet. "She's still angry. Still doesn't understand why I'm doing this. But I can't go back. I can't let her pull me back into that world. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us." The boy reached out, taking her hand gently in his. "I'm proud of you," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "This is hard. I know it's not easy. But we're in this together. I'm here for you." In that moment, the boy realized just how far they had come. They had faced the darkness together, confronted the painful truths, and emerged stronger for it. The healing process wasn't quick or easy, but they were making it through. They were both committed to moving forward, to building a future based on honesty, trust, and love. A few months later, they stood together in a park, hand in hand, the sun setting behind them. It had been a long road, but they had made it through. The boy looked at the girl, a sense of peace settling over him. "We've come a long way," he said, his voice soft but filled with conviction. The girl smiled, her eyes bright with hope. "And we'll keep going, one day at a time." They walked forward together, ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could overcome anything. As they walk hand in hand, ready to face the future together, it's clear that the love they've fought for is stronger than ever. If you found this journey of healing, love, and redemption as powerful as I have, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below with your thoughts. It's stories like these that show us the power of love and forgiveness, even in the face of unimaginable challenges. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more heart-wrenching, emotional tales that will leave you reflecting long after the video ends. Your support means everything, and it allows us to continue bringing you more stories like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay tuned for more.